Welcome back to Universe. I'm Andrew, and today I'm playing Procedures to Discover the Path Ahead. So this is not a card game, not a board game, and not really a role-playing game. This is more like part role-playing, part map-making exercise. So I was looking for games or game-like supplements that would create fantasy world maps from scratch, including like terrain and points of interest and history. And I haven't been able to find one. I'm worried I'm going to have to make my own. I don't know if I'm up for it. So if you know of something like that, please let me know. But I did find this, which does something similar, but within the context of taking a character on a journey. And it looked cool enough. We'll have a link in the description to where you can find this and get it for yourself. Obviously, I bought the PDF and then printed it for myself. But it looked cool enough that I still want to try it out. And I've been planning to play this game, Apothecaria, a solo potion making RPG. And I read through this, and I hope I'm not screwing things up, but it seemed like it didn't give a great sense of place. You can kind of fill in that with whatever you want. And in Apothecaria, you are playing a person. It's honestly not really well described for that either, but basically a witch who was serving the local community with various witchy remedies has gone away, has gone missing, and part of the game of Apothecaria is discovering what happened to that witch as you kind of fill in for her. So I don't know how that goes or how that turns out. I'm hoping to try it out, but I thought it would be fun to use this game to set the scene and give my Apothecaria character an initial journey to arrive at the former witch's hut in order to start taking over for her. Hopefully that doesn't clash with whatever story does emerge from Apothecaria, but I'm hoping that Apothecaria is loose enough in that sense that I'll just be able to build from it and flesh out the world that we're going to introduce ourselves to now. So in order to get started, I meant to mark on the map the number 0, which indicates that that is our starting location. And I had it, for some reason in my head, my instinct just says that we're going to be traveling maybe like southeast, searching for the old witch's hut in order for us to, we've heard that she's gone missing, and we feel that our skills are good enough, or maybe other people in the community said, hey, you should go fill in for her. And so we don't know exactly where she is, but we're going to be traveling this direction to find her. And to that end, I'm going to start us maybe here. I'm just going to write the number 0 in that hex to indicate our starting position. And going back a few pages, it says, before beginning your journey, come up with some details. Now, I did play this briefly already, and I was rolling on almost every one of these and really getting a sense of the region and the starting town. But I think that might have been a mistake. It says not to roll on all of them, and I think it is probably better to roll on some of them and let more of the details emerge as you explore and venture out. This one says a place to start your journey. So I think that is important. We'll start there. Where is our character from? All these are D6 tables. So I've got my D6 and dice tray here. And let's say a place to start a journey. I got a 1, so it's just going to be a small town. So I'll just put a tiny little dot that represents our small town. And I'd like to name it, but let's learn a little bit more first. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tables. I'm gonna roll a D8. I'll re-roll an 8, but I wanna roll on one of these tables, but not all of them. Roll on the 7th table, which would be the last one. So they get some kind of luxury from the wilds near here. So let's roll on the luxury from the wilds table. I got a 4. So there is fine wood. So if we are harvesting fine wood, there are probably forests nearby. So I'm definitely going to add forests to the map. But again, I'm going to wait because I'm going to start by exploring this direction. And if I find a forest, then maybe that's where the fine wood is coming from. But if I don't find a forest almost immediately, I'll probably just say that this whole region up here is just all forested, just to kind of like fill out the map with an area that I know that I'm not necessarily going to be exploring as I travel southeast. And then let's turn and let's roll on one of these 4 tables. Let's roll the D8 again, divide by 2, and we get a 1, so it'll be the first flavor. First table, what flavors are popular here? A 5 is herbs, basil, mint, sage, perilla, oregano, etc. So maybe some of these herbs are grown in that forest as well, so it's a very woodsy town. Makes sense for our herbalist character. And these are tables for settlements. We are rolling for a settlement, so let's roll on one of these tables as well. I got a 5. Relationship between communities. So what is our relationship between our starting village and some of the nearby communities? That's a 6. So it's suspicion or avoidance. Interesting. So our town does not like to get involved in other towns. Business, maybe there's some kind of religious reason for that. Actually, the next page is going to dip into that potentially as we talk about the supernatural. So what kind of supernatural entity or relationship do we have? Again, there are 6 tables here. 6, what makes it harmful? So there's some kind of deity or god that is harmful. 1, it harms food or livestock. I don't know if that is a superstition or an actual deity that manifests, but for now I'm just gathering ideas. Next page is a reason for a journey, but I think we've got that covered because we know that we're traveling, searching for the old witch's hut so that we can take over. People you meet on the road, we'll save that for when we meet somebody on the road. And the journey begins. So I think I'm ready to name the starting village. Not that I know what the name is. I just got enough details, enough of a vibe. And I don't want to just name it, which is why I created this syllables sheet, kind of an all-purpose sheet of syllables I put together. I Googled like the most common syllables in the English language, and then I filled it out a little bit on my own. It's just a D100 chart of syllables. And I kind of created up my own system of how many syllables to use. Basically, I'm going to roll a D6 along with the D100. If it is a 6, that means it is a single syllable name. Otherwise, I'll roll another syllable and add 1 to the D6. And then if it totals 6 or more, that's the end, that's the final syllable. Otherwise, I keep going and adding an additional 1 to the D6 each time. Of course, it's just suggestions, so I can always just change it to whatever I want. But let's see. And in case you don't know, a D100, you've got a D10 that has 2 digits, like this one's numbered 80, 40, 90. So it's double 00 through 90. And then a D10 numbered normally. So this is 82. Syllable number 82 is the. And I rolled a 5, which means it's not a 6. So there'll be another syllable. This time I did get a 6. Plus 1 will definitely be means it's the final syllable. I got a 34. So Hade. So the name of the town is Thehade. It's kind of hard to, it's not hard to say, but Thehade. So I'm just going to call it Sahad. Sahad Village is our starting location. We know there's forests somewhere nearby. And in fact, now I'm thinking, we know that the witch from Apothecaria was serving the local region or some kind of local town or city in terms of taking customers and helping them with their ailments. But if the people of the Sahad village don't trust other communities, why would we be traveling away from home to a potentially region full of people who are untrustworthy and scary in order to help out? And I'm thinking maybe a reason that would make sense is that the previous witch is also from the Sahad village. Maybe, in fact, all of the people here are witches or involved in herbalism and witchery, and the special woods and the herbs and the organic flavors and the vicinity of the forest are all part of that witchy community. And maybe the suspicion that I rolled earlier is not the Sahad village's suspicion of others, but rather others' suspicion of us. So when we heard that the witch from our community, who is like maybe the one trusted person representing our village, is gone, we need to send somebody to replace her and try to maintain the trust of our village among the people in the region. Okay, so the ideas are starting to come together, and let's actually start our village, our travel. So we're traveling overland, I guess. There are options. We could be traveling through the woods, I think. There's mountains, deserts, seas, the deep wilds, and the deep wilds longer. So no, I think we're mostly overland here, because those ones I just read are considered traversing barriers. So any forest we travel through for now is not part of the, it's not really a barrier. Some gentle wilds, some rough wilds. Those are things that we can experience overland. And the way the system works is I'm going to be rolling a d6 and adding the modifier of the hex that I'm leaving from. So I'm currently leaving from 0. That's why we marked a 0 on that initial space. And so I'll roll a d6 and I'll just refer to this. Now this is numbered 1 through 12, but on a d6, obviously that will be limited up to the top 6. But then I will add this modifier in this rightmost column to the hex that I'm moving into. So 0 plus whatever I roll, and that number will go into that hex, indicating the escalating level of difficulty or potential danger that we find along the way. And that number will keep adding and adding up. And as it gets bigger, we'll have a more chance of hitting one of these lower results, numbered 7 through 12, which includes things like town and city, which in this system is presumed to be our final destination. And so, since I'm not searching for any given, like with the assumption being kind of just that you are just traveling and you don't necessarily know where you're going and you're just going to find yourself somewhere next, maybe in a town or in a city. But I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something specific. So I'm going to replace town and city results with the old witch's hut. So if I roll town or city, that means I've reached my destination. So I need to roll a d6 and add 0, and let's get started. I rolled a 1. So that's the first possible thing. I rolled a water barrier. It is a +0, so I'm going to write another 0. And I was probably just traveling in that direction I said earlier. So this is another 0, but it's just going to be a barrier. So I can't travel there. I'm actually not totally clear on what happens next because I'm not going to be able to pass through that hex. And I don't necessarily know why my character didn't know that there would be a lake there, but especially having grown up there, but such is life. So we have to double back and I guess start from here again. This time maybe we'll go to this location here. And again, just rolling +0. This time it is a 5. So we found some farmland nearby, and that makes sense. Maybe some of the people from Sahad are farmers. Farmland is also a +0, so we'll just put another 0. And then there's an entry on farmland here. Farmland with villages, the land transformed over centuries, old walls or irrigation canals. Most people are engaged in producing food or textiles. Well, I guess this is different. This is not just the farmers of Sahad. This is a separate farming village. I wonder if they resent the people of Sahad, if they're scared of them and their vicinity to the woods. I'm going to roll on both of these tables to learn more about this village. The first one, they actually do fishing. And the second roll table here, they are isolated. So they do not appreciate travelers, especially from the Sahad, but we had to go around. Also, they do fishing. So I'm going to have this lake extend a bit into their territory. I don't know exactly how far that should be going, but let's put another village here. I'm also going to put a windmill symbol. Maybe they have silos or something, and they're isolated. So they do their fishing. They're not really close to anybody else. And let's get a name for this one. First up, we got 99 is wood. Oops, I rolled the D8 instead of the D6. 4 means there's another syllable. Got 85 and a 6, so this is the last syllable. Thet, so it's woodthet. It actually has some of the same sounds as the Had, woodthet, the Had. It's not that similar, but I like the idea that they're like sister villages from like a couple hundred years ago, and there was something that happened that separated them. So I'm actually going to rearrange that syllables a bit. I'm going to call it Wathad. So Thahad and Wathad. And that might make them resent the Had even more due to the association. And if I were playing some kind of D&D game or something, there might be some kind of encounter where we're fighting each other, or I had to deal with suspicious locals as we travel through. But this is just a game about the exploration, and I'm just going to keep on moving. So even though I like the idea that the lake extends here, I don't think there's any mechanical reason I can't travel here. So I'm going to travel there next. And we get a 3, still adding 0. So 3 is a waystation. We're getting a slow escalation here. Waystation is actually a +1, so I'm going to add 1 to 0, and I'll actually write 1 here. A waystation is a small place to rest, travel camaraderie, and the usual and unexpected laws of hospitality, uneasy truces, rest and become refreshed. So especially after getting through that very isolated and untrusting town, maybe we'll be a little bit more accepted here as long as we can pay. Which, again, we're just assuming we can. So let's roll on both of these. 2, this is an abandoned building. Oh, okay. So there's nobody here, but at least we get to rest. And then 1 means there's news from far away. So it's abandoned, but there's news from far away. I don't know what to put for an abandoned building. I'm just going to put a little cave symbol. Maybe it's got a roof on it like it was a house. I don't know, that's my waystation symbol. News from far away would probably be a bit more interesting of a prompt if we were playing more of a story. I'm going to close out this lake, or at least that far. But maybe we just heard a clue of some kind that some people in this direction are growing more and more uneasy without their herbalist, witch, doctor helping them out, making poultices and whatnot to cure their ailments. So things are getting worse. We need to get there. So I'm going to travel this direction, roll d6 and add 1. This is 6. So now we've crossed over the threshold of the first half of this chart here. A 7 is actually a barrier. And that says to place a barrier up to 2 spaces away, maybe next to another barrier of the same type. So we basically see a barrier coming 2 spaces away from here. This bit is vague because it says I'm trying to go here, but it says I can place it up to 2 spaces away. But maybe just this lake is continued. So I'm going to just have this be part of the lake, which is 1 space away. It's up to 2, but then that still doesn't determine what is in this space. What do we encounter here? Also, barrier is a +2. And 2 plus the one we already had is 3. But since we're walking along this edge of this lake, I'm just going to say that it is wetlands. So we're just going to say this is gentle wilds, and these are wetlands that we're traveling through. I'm not sure how the system expects that to be resolved, so I just have to make it up. Let's mark this as a little bit of swampland. I think we're far enough away that I'm pretty comfortable saying that this is all forest. So let's put a bit of trees with the hod along the edge of the wood here, just on the barrier. And what the heck, let's name the forest. Pull out the syllables again. Got a 56 and a 1, so there'll be another syllable. We got my 91 and a 6 again. Mai Tai. I don't think I actually want to name the forest Mai Tai. One of the theme of giving out matching names, something about this area, let's just say it's called Mai Hod. So Thahad, Wathad, and Mai Hod. Woods. And now we're going to continue on here from 3, or from here starting with, or adding 3. So let's roll 1d6. Got a 5 plus 3 is 8. So it's something unfriendly. We're also going to add 1. So this is a 4 now. And unfriendly is going to be an unfriendly settlement. Not necessarily violent, but no warm welcomes. And that fits our story so far. A 4 is a supernatural threat is here. So we haven't really dug into, we rolled earlier that there's some kind of deity that harms food or livestock. And I like the idea that our witches are trying to live in harmony with nature. And even with Thod Village as farmers and fishers, they might not, I almost forgot about the fishing. Let's see if I can, I'll just draw a little fish here. As much as they don't get along, they're all trying to live in harmony with nature to some degree. There's something about this supernatural force that harms food or livestock, and maybe the people in this unfriendly settlement have something to do with that. So let's go back and roll on these settlements tables. Let's see what kind of architecture they use. 3 is natural features, caves, trees, and mounds. What brings them joy? Say 4, painting, sculpture. These people don't sound too bad. Painting, sculpture, beautiful objects, and their architecture using natural features. But something is putting them in conflict with us and with those other villages, and they're going to have some relationship to this deity. Let's see, what is it that they value? A 1 is heroism, courage, or perseverance. So I'm starting to get a different sense of things. I'm making up this backstory, or imagining a bit of it, where there's this history of the people in the region affected by, maybe worshiping, or some relationship with this mysterious deity that I still haven't pinned down, that harms food or livestock. And maybe the people of this settlement that we've just found, they're also attuned with nature. They love nature and they love art, not too different from the people of the Thahad village to the northwest. But the people here specifically value heroism, courage, and perseverance. And maybe that's where they differ. Not that the people of Thahad don't value those things, but maybe they chose to, in kind of a witch-like theme, try to work with that deity rather than just let it run rampant and hurt all of their food and livestock. They tried to bind it. They tried to control it. They've tried to form some kind of magical bond with it. Whereas the people here, with their courage and their heroism, all they wanted to do was fight it, destroy it, run it out of their lands. Who's right? Who's to say for now? But maybe that is the schism. I want to say that this force is part of nature maybe as a kind of a corrupting entropic force of nature, but it is part of the circle of life, which is why the people of Sahad wanted to learn it, understand it, work with it. The people here just wanted to fight against it. So I'm going to call this a city. So it's going to have a bigger dot. Fortunately, I don't have to take too many notes because I'm recording all of this on video, and I can just check my notes by watching this video again. But let's name this city. Got 63 is nay. I think this is definitely not going to be a Had situation. 63, 65, now, nay now. And this is the first time we're going to have a third syllable because 4 plus the one previous syllable is 5, which is less than 6. So we roll again. Got a 95, was. And again, 1 plus the 2 previous syllables is 3. So we're going to roll again, although this is the part where I might just stop. Anyway, 91 is tie. And then 3 plus the 3 previous syllables is 6. So we got Ninawasti. Maybe it's just called Ninawasti. So the city is called Ninawasti. It's a city that uses the natural features of the land, caves, trees, mounds, and nature, art, beautiful objects, painting, sculpture. I imagine with that sculpture, they probably have statues carved into trees, like still living trees, representing the heroism, the heroic acts that they took to banish the this evil spirit from their territory. So I'm going to draw like a cave and trees around it. So maybe some of the people live in caves, some of them live in trees. There's hills all over, housing built down into them. And somehow we're able to travel through Ninawasti and keep on searching. I'm just going to keep going southeast directly until something stops me, like the edge of the map. Thematically, I would just add more map, but probably try to keep it on the sheet here. And this time I'm adding 4 to the D6 of 1, so still just a 5, and that's some more farmland. Still does add 1, so we're up to 5 now. And I imagine the farm near Ninawasti is a bit different from the farming village near Sahad. So let's roll on these farm tables. We got a 2, so they have staple crops and an ancient ruin. I wonder if the ruin is a temple to this unfavored god. So there's actually a staple crops table here. So what staple crop is it? 6 is grains, oats, or quinoa. Also, I know that the other people in Wathad are also farmers. I'm just going to say it's the same thing. They're all just growing grains. That's what's common in the region. But I do want to get to know this village a little bit more, especially now that I know that they have a ruin, which again, I'm probably going to say is a temple to the putrid god of entropy. Let's see what their relationship is. This is a relationship between communities table, and I'm going to say that this role is going to define their relationship with Ninawasti. So it's a 2, which is an obligation or debt. So maybe they feel indebted to the people of Ninawasti, or vice versa. Ninawasti kind of views them as their weaker, younger sibling that they rescued, a century or 2 ago. Again, from this god, they went in, they destroyed their temple, and now they're under their care. So there's a bit of a pretension from Ninawasti. So I bet the people of this village have like maybe a lower opinion of themselves because that's what they've been told all their lives, but there's something underneath that knows something's off. They don't really deserve that kind of demeaning treatment. So this table is also jumping out at me. What can you get here? Let's see what we can get in this village. 3 is knowledge. And I actually want to say that it's just the knowledge of some of this history. We're learning about, what happened n number of years ago. You know what? Let's define it. Let's roll 2d100 and then see if I'm happy with that result. All right, I got a 1 and a 7, so 8 years ago. This happened 8 years ago. I'm definitely not happy with that result. Let's try again. 41 and 38. Still 75 or 85. It's not enough years ago. I'm going to say it's 185 years ago is when the people of Ninawasti, they fought off the god, where people of Sahad had been trying. They'd kind of probably been in the process of trying to fix some of the famine and the death of the crops in the region, the death of the livestock. The witches had been learning more about nature, studying within the Mahad wood. Maybe that's when like their witchiness was starting to ramp up. These were all united. This was all one city at that time. But as the witches were kind of maybe getting close, or they thought they were getting close to being able to control this deity, the people of Ninawasti just either killed it or just completely drove it out of the region. The witches continued doing their witchy stuff, but some of the people resented that, and it ended up causing the split between the villages. The people who kind of stuck with the witch path and the people who wanted none of it. The temple was destroyed here in this village, which we need to name. Hopefully we'll get more into who the deity is later. Let's see, naming this village, we got a 90. That's a lot of 90s. 96 is where? Second roll, we got 40 Hugh, and 6 means that's the last syllable. So just Werhugh village. Just gonna put Werhugh. They grow grain and they have a ruined temple. I don't know how to represent that. And we just need to keep traveling. This time I'm actually gonna go east. I don't want to draw a straight diagonal here. I'm gonna add 5. It's just a 6. Wow. Rough Wilds. It's going to be a +2. So this is a 7 now. Rough Wild says something makes this a challenging place to live or even travel through. A guide or specialized knowledge might be helpful. Roll both tables. This is a wetland bog with restless dead. I wonder if the restless dead from a bog, that's just like on point, isn't it? But I wonder if that is some of the power of that corruptive deity climbing back out of the swamp. Maybe if the people of Ninawasti fought him out, maybe he had some kind of army. Maybe there are people fighting on his side, and this is the other side of that conflict. So I'm going to put another swamp here, but I'm also going to put like a skeletal hand sticking out. That doesn't look like a skeletal hand at all. So, well, I'll just have to listen to this audio in order to know what it was I was trying to draw. How about a skull? That would probably be better, if I can even recognize that as a skull. Now I'm actually kind of trying to decide where to go next based on what I want, how much of this map I want to be filled out. Because if I keep going this way, it's just like a weird... I mean, I could fill this stuff out later or just decide what's there. I'd plan to go southeast, but I could just go straight east now. Got a little bit more room that way. I don't know, it doesn't matter. So let's go southeast here. We're gonna add 7, which gives us 2 + 7 is 9. Something unfriendly. It's another unfriendly city. It's a +1 for 8. Or not necessarily a city, but an unfriendly settlement. Roll on that as a 4. A supernatural threat. Well, we got some hints of that. I guess maybe we're traveling too far into that bog. So there's a whole table here for the supernatural. We've already determined a lot about this ancient god, deity, powerful force of nature thing. We've also established that just to the west is the restless dead. So I'm not going to roll on this table because one of the results would be the vengeful dead. I think we'll just say that that's what it is. What makes it harmful? We already know it harms food or livestock, although it could definitely do some of the other things potentially, like attacking directly, giving bad luck, frightening people. Let's see what appears to our character here. The spirit's appearance. Let's roll on that. This is 6. Strange or incorporeal. And I'm going to roll on the spirit cannot also. Spirit cannot lie, break a promise, or utter a certain word. And I don't think our character knows which one of those things it is. In fact, I don't think our character is really being able to communicate with this thing directly at all, since it's kind of strange and incorporeal. I'm just going to determine that this swamp area is continuing here. And I'm going to draw a little cartoon ghost to indicate that that is some kind of spiritual remnant of the deity. And since it can't lie or break promises or utter some certain word, that indicates that there is some form of communication that is possible. And this is probably not something I'm going to get into now. But again, if you're playing some other game and using this to help guide you on an adventure, this would definitely be an encounter you could resolve in some certain way. But I'm going to put a pin in this and we'll see. I don't know how Apothecaria works, but I'm definitely building some kind of setting here. And maybe we'll be able to work some of this back in later. Maybe not. But I'm just going to say our character saw a spooky ghost. It seemed like it was trying to talk. It seemed threatening, but not directly. Seemed scary, but not imminently. And we're going to back away and go down this direction, hopefully out of the swamp. This time adding 8, since that's the hex we're leaving. So again, we'll roll on the overland table. 5 + 8 is 13, which means we finally found well, it goes off the table here, off the charts, which is city. It says switch to the table on page 18 or set the counter to 0 and place a city 3 spots away. And again, we're replacing city with the previous witch's home. Now page 18 shows the city approach table. So it's basically like you can see a city in the distance, or maybe there's a sign or something that you know the city is nearby. You now know where it is. You get to mark it 3 spaces away, I believe. Or I guess this would replace the, yeah, you would start rolling on this table instead. After resetting it to 0, these are the things you would find. And it would make sense as you get closer to the city, you start finding things like holy sites, waystations, water, military, farmland, productive wilds, nearby towns, etc. But since we're approaching probably what is a cabin in the woods, I don't think it makes sense for us to do the city approach. Instead, I'm just going to say that we found a clear indicator of exactly how far away and where the witch is. It's 3 spaces away. So this will be 1. This is where we are now. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Maybe it's down here. Just maximum distance. I'm going to count the distance from here. So 1, 2, 3. Let's put it here. I don't know. Let's just draw it like this. Very basic children's house drawing. Maybe it's a log. That looks more like bricks, but it's done now. That is the previous witch's hut. That's where we're headed. We now know how to get there. This was the space we were entering. It said to reset to 0. So I will follow the rules here, but I'm going to re-roll that. Should I roll it +8 again? I think I'm kind of messing with the rules a bit. So I'm just going to re-roll this time with +0, and we get a 6, which is rough wilds. Rough wilds can be wetlands or bogs. I almost want to just say the bog continues. And again, restless dead. So yeah, let's just say that bog continues in this space here. That's a +2. So let's roll d6 +2 for that space there. It's an 8. It's another unfriendly settlement. Sure. Let's roll it up. 4 is a supernatural threat again. I don't want to repeat that. It makes it a little bit less special over here if I just repeat it. Like if the spirit is here, but also more spirit here. It's like, okay, I mean, the swamp could continue, but kind of want to put something different, especially since it's right next to the cabin. I kind of want to imagine that this is in the woods. I mean, in fact, I am just going to say that this is in the woods. I think that is part of the assumptions of Apothecaria anyway. And there need to be more forest nearby. Fortunately, we've got plenty of room for more forest. And there's also some swamp. I actually like the idea that our final little stretch of the journey is through some deep wilds, which would have been result 11. And it's similar to the city approach, kind of. There's like a special table of stuff. We didn't really use this because it's not really used in the map making portion. It's more just like what things happens to your character. But this whole traversing barrier section, if you need to travel through the mountains, it's still just 1 hex that you're moving through. Or if you need to move through desert and wasteland or seas, as far as I can tell, it's still just 1 hex you're moving through. But you can use these tables to tell a little bit of an extra story of what happens. So I'm going to say that we're going through the deep wilds on a quick little journey. And so I'm going to put some woods there. In fact, I'll probably make woods cut off the cabin entirely. And let's see what final experiences our character has as they approach the cabin. So something strange happens. Number 1, it's always 1 season. So maybe as soon as we enter these woods, we can feel that whatever current season it was, in fact, let's start with spring on a 1 or a 2 on this D8. So it was spring, and maybe as we enter, it now feels like, well, let's roll. 1 again, that's not going to work. 4. So summer. As soon as we get in, it's like pure summer in this forest. Something powerful is there. Number 4 is the summer court. So I guess that would be fairies, and that perfectly matches the season I've just rolled up. And something is gained. 5 is a strange new friend. We make a friend potentially from the summer court or introduced to us by the summer court. Although I don't know if that always summer thing is going to work with Apothecaria, because I do think seasons are part of how the system works. But there's a little something we could tap into. So let's draw some forest in that space. Maybe I'll put a sun shining to indicate the summerness, even though, and yeah, let's go ahead and encircle this with forest, and our character has made their journey. So I have read this book, and part of what inspired me to want, I mean, it's kind of a coincidence. I found this game and I found this game separately, and then I thought maybe I could use this to fill in something I wasn't totally thrilled about here, which is that I read the rules. There are a lot of like entries toward the end which fill in the story, make some of this, I think some of it makes story happen and some of it uncovers the story of the past. I'm not totally sure, but from what I read, I didn't get a sense of who my character is or where I am in the world, at least not from the outset. Maybe those things get revealed later, but I feel like if I'm living in the world, I should know at least something about it, which is why I wanted to play Procedures to Discover the Path Ahead in order to make a little bit of a map and make a little bit of a world. So I kind of decided to put forest here because of Apothecaria. I got a little loose with the lake, but it's still kind of undefined how big that is or needs to be. We've got a mysterious marsh with restless dead and the spiritual remnants of a god of entropy and decay that the witches are trying to commune with and be in harmony with, as with all things in nature, whereas Ninawasti wants to embrace only growth and push out, defeat entropy and decay, while the people of Warhu, hosts of the destroyed temple of the deity, live in the shadow. And you know what? Let's name the deity before we go. Pull out our syllables again, and let's see. We got an 89, which is tier 3, which is A, and we rolled a 6. Plus 1 is 7, so that means that's the last syllable, Tira. I'm actually going to invert those syllables to make it sound more ominous and name it Atir. I will make a little note. This is the ghost of Atir. So there you go. Next time, hopefully, will be Apothecaria, but this was Procedures to Discover the Path Ahead. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Link in the description if you want to check out the game for yourself. It does require good bit of creative input on your own, including some interpretations of the rules. But thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and bye.